Hello, you're listening to Hibs Talk. I'm your host, always Gav. Joining me today is Stephen.
Hello.
How you doing?
Not bad. First time I'm first.
I know.
Because
first
I'm the only person here. How you doing?
Good, I'm good. How you getting on?
Doing away, yeah. Just working away.
Good.
Usual.
So yeah, we've got obviously reacting to the news that Lee Johnson is set to be appointed to Hibs manager. We kind of tried to hold off, thought about maybe doing it tomorrow with the official announcement, but thought, nah, let's just get it done. We've also got Gav from the Rocker Report, the Sunderland Podcast, to give us a lowdown on what to expect from Lee Johnson as Hibs manager. So like I say, he kind of talks about the style of play, how it kind of worked out, what went wrong and stuff. So we can hear all about that soon from Gavin. But your initial thoughts, Stephen? I know you were the other day, but
I was a bit of poof. But yeah, I don't know. The idea's grown on me. Like we're used to accepting managers like Lee Johnson come in. I think it was the same sort of build up as Hecky. I mean, obviously he was sacked in January for Sunderland. He's had a wee bit of time to regain his confidence and reset and stuff. So obviously social media was fun the day.
I'd say I was looking through Hibs.net and like say our Twitter post and other Twitter posts. Obviously Sky Sports News kind of confirmed it's going to be in the next 48 hours, and a lot of responses I'm very taken aback by. I can understand that Hibs fans were getting excited by John Dal Thomason.
But that's the thing though, they got excited about the whole Roy Keane thing when it came up, and a few other names that were mentioned. It's all just flash in the pan though, eh? Like, I mean, there's no point in getting all excited about somebody that's not even even on the radar half the time. So I think obviously Hibs, like they've talked about Lee Johnson coming in for the last week or two. There's been a lot of sort of strong rumours about it, and it's been a wee bit more concrete with the reports from like the journalists and stuff coming through. So yeah, I mean that's the direction that we're taking, and we've just got to get on board with it now, eh? Yeah,
I mean it's one when the names were first coming out, it's, you know, you see that name and it's like, right, what was he again? Oh, that's that boy. Because I remember when, like I say, we spoke about this briefly last week, getting a bit more now, when Man United got beat 4-0 by MK Dons and his team sort of he was managing the team that day, and you know that sort of time he was, you know, one of the really up and coming exciting young managers. Obviously got the Bristol City job, didn't really work out, and then Sunderland, which obviously we'll hear a bit more about from Gav in a sec. But yeah, I mean, like I say, I it's one the managers I don't get as excited about managers than I have in the previous years, because the last two have been sacked in my eyes prematurely. Yeah. So to me, I'm a bit apprehensive about getting excited by a manager if the board are going to sack him before giving him a chance. But I mean, this is a manager that probably does need time to implement his style of play and be given a chance. It's what managers need, full stop.
Yeah, 100%. I think obviously it's the way football is nowadays. You don't really get the time to nurture a team unless you're Arteta, and
that sounded a bit of frustration coming through
just
there.
A tad, but it's going to be interesting. I think obviously he's got to win over the fans, and I think he'll know that, because I mean, managers and that, they're just as active on social media as the fans that are wanting them in or wanting them out before they even like have their first game. So I think he'll know the expectations coming into the club now, knowing what's happened to Maloney, what's happened to Jack Ross as well. I think he'll have had a proper think about whether this is the right step for him, and if he thinks it is, then I mean, I suppose we've just got to give him a chance and see what happens, eh?
Well, I mentioned Gav from the Rocker Report there, obviously Lee Johnson previously at Sunderland, so let's hear how he got on at Sunderland and what to expect from Lee Johnson as Hibs manager. So joining me now from the Rocker Report is Gav Henderson. Gav, how you getting on?
Not bad at all, just getting ready for Wembley. We've got a big weekend coming up, so I'm fully focused on that at the minute, and it's I'm getting a bit nervous, I've got to admit.
How you feeling about it?
To be honest, I'm really confident, and I don't like that feeling. I don't like the fact that all of the EFL pundits are tipping Sunderland to win, because it just doesn't feel right. But I'm nervous now. Come match day, I'm going to be a wreck. But that's all I can think about at the minute. It's going to be a mad few days, I think.
That sounds like a Hibs fan going into a big game that you should be confident about and not liking the fact that you should be confident. That sounds very familiar. But yeah, obviously we're here to get your thoughts on the Hibs new manager, not officially confirmed by the club at time of recording. But yeah, Lee Johnson set to be announced Hibs manager. I have to say that I think it was partly because of the other name that was kind of linked with it, which got Hibs fans quite excited, John Dell Thompson. But yeah, I mean, not the best reception I've seen. I'm a bit disappointed in the fan base, a wee bit toxic at times, but not the best reception. What was the reception like when he was announced as Sunderland manager?
Probably similar. The people were mixed on what to make of him. One thing straight out the blocks that Lee Johnson will do is he will confuse people with the way he talks, and it took a lot of getting used to from a Sunderland fan's perspective to get used to the way he talks about football. If you're a deep thinker and you enjoy listening to people talk about the technical side of football, you'll love Lee Johnson. And I'll be honest, he's unashamedly that way. So you know, even when you're playing badly, he'll talk in that way. And yeah, that might not go down well with some fans, it will with others. So when he first came in through the door at Sunderland, it was pretty similar. People weren't sure what to make of him. What I do remember is he came in and he was announced as manager on the same day as the game, about 1 o'clock, I think. It was about 2 hours before kick-off. And he was in the dugout for that game, which was Wigan at home, and we got beat. And to be fair, it took a little bit of getting used to, like I say, but people grew to love him, I think. But then there was always the element of the Sunderland fan base who were never going to have him just because of the way he is and the way he talks. But yeah, last year we do a lot of charity work around Christmas time with the local soup kitchen, and Lee came along and offered his time to help, and I got to meet him in person and just talk to him and stuff. And although I did like him anyways, I really grew to respect him when I met him, and I just hope he gets a fair crack of a whip, because he is a nice person deep down. I wouldn't let the sort of way he talks about football cloud that.
You mentioned a crack of the whip there. I mean, our last manager got 19 games, so hopefully gets a lot more than that. But I mean, in terms of, like, say, kind of, you say needs a bit fair crack of the whip. What kind of style of play is he trying to implement, and what kind of did you see at Sunderland as well?
His football's really good to watch. We played a lot of front foot football, quick passing, high tempo, just trying to outscore teams. And to be honest, I think ultimately that was his downfall with us, because I think the Sunderland owners wanted a manager who was just going to get them over the line, and that maybe wasn't him. So people looking back might say that he was sacked with the team third in the table on the back of a 6-0 drubbing away at Bolton, who Bolton were probably 16th, 15th in the table at the time. But the football that his team played when he was Sunderland manager was always good. It was nice to watch. You know, it's the type of football when you're paying your ticket money that you don't mind going out the way to watch. And that's the one thing he will do. He comes with a very clear philosophy on how he plays, and it's good to watch. And providing you aren't expecting him to lead Hibs to a league title in the same way like Sunderland fans wanted him to lead us to the League One title immediately, then given a bit of time, it'll work. But first and foremost, you'll enjoy watching his team play. I think now that the summer's coming and he'll get a bit of time to shore the squad up in his own vision, you'll probably see I don't know what your last manager was like, but you'll probably see a very different team, because yeah, his football's nice to watch. That's the one big positive I would say with Lee Johnson, is that his teams know their job, and they know exactly that their job is to play nice stuff. Football is to be enjoyed, and he'll make sure of it. And that, like I was talking about before, with the way he talks about football, it comes across in that way when he talks. You know, he's a very deep thinker, and he's worked a lot with the City group. So I think he's got quite close connections with Brian Marwood, who's on the footballing side at Man City. I think he runs the show. And every time Johnson's been out of a job, he's worked with them off the pitch. So, he's very much in that mould of a coach who likes the ball on the deck, the Pep Guardiola style, if you will. Obviously, you're not going to get prime Man City football, but that's the type of coach you're getting anyways.
Sounds really exciting. Obviously, like the previous manager, probably wasn't given him time to see what he fully wanted to do, but the emphasis was kind of like on lots of passes, but also keeping the ball, and it was a bit safe and a bit slow at times, and passing between the defence. So I think that'll be a welcome change if you can get that implemented at Easter Road. In terms of implementing that, I mean, obviously managers kind of, if they've got a style of play, what they want to play, it kind of depends on who they can get in. Lee had Sunderland had the January window after he started, and then the summer window, was he backed in those two windows?
As far as League One clubs go, I would say he was backed. Yeah, we did spend money. There was an element of free transfers, and there was a big focus on bringing through youth. So obviously he saved money in that regard. There was one player in particular who really thrived under him. That was Dan Neil, who hasn't featured at all under Alex Neil. But he won our Young Player of the Year, and under Johnson he was a revelation. So one big focus I would say is that you'll probably, if there are 2, 3, 4 lads hanging around the fringes of the team who've come through the academy and who the club have big expectations for, he'll play them. Like, he won't worry about putting young players in. And again, that's probably a little bit what contributed to his downfall as Sunderland manager, because in the end, we ended up flogging some of these lads a little bit who needed to come out of the team. But as a fan, you want to see, lads who grew up from around the corner, from the ground. You want to see them in your team, don't you? You want to see them fighting in the shirt that they've always played in and grown up in. So he will give them a chance. But in terms of backing them in the transfer market, yeah, he did have money spent. I mean, we signed Ross Stewart from Ross County, from an SPL team, and he's been a revelation in a Sunderland shirt, to be fair. We signed him, and I think he'd scored something like 2 goals for Ross County all season, playing out on the left wing. As a centre forward, he's now on course to be the top scorer in League One this season, being in the Scotland squad. So, and how much of a say he had in transfers, though, is the other thing I don't know. He came into the club at a time when we were revolutionising off the pitch, and we just appointed a sporting director in Christian Speakman, who was brought in with the remit to sort of build a very young, exciting football club. So I think a lot of the downfall of Lee Johnson came as a result of his relationship with Christian Speakman and with regards to transfers. So it was no secret that Lee Johnson didn't want Sunderland to sign Jermaine Defoe, and they went and signed him anyways after they sacked him. I think it was maybe a day or so later. So that just tells you really, there was a little bit of to and fro off the pitch with regards to transfers, which maybe wasn't getting his voice heard as much as he wanted, and maybe that's why he eventually left. So it will be interesting to see at Hibs how much sort of say he has on transfers, because at Sunderland I don't think actually he had as much as people maybe thought he should have.
Yeah, it was a bit of a contentious one here recently. It's still going on in terms of who oversees recruitment and things like that. So that's one that you might have more issues with in the future, but hopefully not. You might also, you've got Wembley this weekend. Is it fair to say the best moment in our Lee Johnson Sunderland team was the EFL Trophy win at Wembley?
From a fan's perspective, no, because we weren't allowed to be there. It was during COVID and there was no fans in the ground. So, I mean, it was great watching us win a trophy at Wembley, but that was ultimately clouded with the fact that we weren't there. None of us were there to see it. But I mean, if you're just looking from the outside, then yeah, that was his biggest achievement. Unfortunately, though, it came at the detriment of our league form, and we ended up in the playoffs. And when we got to the playoffs, we failed, and he failed to get us up. He was brought in to get the team promoted, and he didn't. But there were, particularly this season, there were some brilliant home performances, which I would say were the biggest highlights. I think we won 5-0 at home 3 times under Lee Johnson. He made the stadium like a fortress. And one of those games was against Sheffield Wednesday, who we went on to play in the semi-final of the playoffs. We beat them 5-0 on the 2nd of January to go top of the division. And it was probably the best Sunderland performance I've seen since we came into League One. Like I say, in full flow, Lee Johnson's football is very, very good. It's very, very easy on the eye. And what I would say is maybe when he comes into a new job, he'll learn from the mistakes of the past. He'll learn from what he did wrong at Sunderland. He is, like I said, a very deep thinker. So he'll look back and he'll say, I think he would probably admit that he played too many of his young players too much. He maybe went into games away from home against top opposition a little pig-headed, thinking that he could just play them off the park, and we didn't, And these are all things that I would imagine he will learn from. But ultimately, yeah, there were some really good moments. I wouldn't say the Czech trip, to me as a fan, because I wasn't there, it wasn't a high point for me. But like I say, some really good home performances made up for it.
Yeah, it's one thing to say. We got to the Scottish Cup final as well, and there was kind of at the point where it's like, our fans going to, or maybe some fans, and no fans at all. So and we got beat. So, that was it was probably the low point of our decent season.
I'll just add on that, by the way, for Sunderland fan, my dad's 62, and he didn't get a ticket when we won the FA Cup in 1973, and he's been to Wembley 7 times now and hasn't seen us win. And the one time we have won, there was no fans there. And that's the story for the majority of Sunderland fans who are still alive, to be honest. If you weren't there in 73, you haven't seen Sunderland win. So the fact that we managed to win at Wembley when there was nobody there is typical Sunderland.
Yeah, aye. And just to sort of finish up with Lee, I mean, you mentioned those big defeats earlier on. You also mentioned some issues with the transfer stuff, but were the big defeats the sort of reason for his sacking?
Yeah, well, the one thing you'll probably hear from maybe some of our fans, probably more Bristol fans, is this tag which seems to have followed him everywhere. His nickname is Streaky Lee, because he was famous at Bristol in particular for going on big streaks of wins and then streaks of losses. Now at Sunderland, I'll be honest, although people did call him that, when you look at the results, there weren't any real massive runs of defeats as Sunderland manager. He did have big long. I think we went unbeaten in 13 a couple of times, but ultimately he did all right. He did all right. It's just you'll hear more so from fans of Bristol about this Streaky Lee thing, and that's one thing to look out for. Is that often these tags they follow managers everywhere, don't they? Regardless of who they are. So it is what it is. Like I say, he's got a very defined style of play, and as long as you are all in on that, you should be okay.
Very exciting. I have to say, I feel a wee bit, even like say just from a 20-minute chat with you, I genuinely feel more excited about Lee Johnson's his manager. So thank you for that. So like say Saturday, the playoff final. You and your dad getting along to that as well? So he said he's missed that one, but he's getting along to this one.
Yeah, there's 14 of us going down. We don't play till Saturday at 3 o'clock, but we're on the 8 o'clock train out in Newcastle down to King's Cross, and it's just going to be a full weekend of partying, I think, hopefully. Anyways, I mean, normally with us, we go down and we have a great weekend until the football starts, and then we get beat. But hopefully this time, this is our moment, and there'll be parties going on long into the weekend. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But yeah, there's a big squad of us going down. As I speak to you, the club have just managed to secure another 2,500 tickets, which the demand's outstripping the actual supply at the minute with tickets. I think there's over 50,000 of us already there. And we've already been told that's the last tickets we'll get. So to put it into context, I mean, you could probably have sold out Wembley 80,000 tickets just with Sunderland fans this weekend. So let's just hope that it does feel like a home game with so many of us there and we actually get the job done.
Fantastic. Well, best of luck to you. Like I say, hopefully first Sunderland win with fans there in quite a while. So best of luck at the weekend, and thanks a lot for your time, Gav.
No problem at all, mate. Cheers.
So thanks again to Gav for his time there to give us a bit of an insight into Lee Johnson. So yeah, Stephen, quick passing, high tempo, trying to outscore his teams. Sign me up.
Genuinely never knew you were that good at accents. You've been trying to build it up for me for a couple of weeks now, and I think you might have just managed that a wee bit. Yeah, I mean, he's saying all the right things. I mean, saying that he goes into games trying to outscore opponents and then getting beat 6-0 off a Bolton to get sacked.
But he also won 5-0 three times at home.
Yeah, I mean, when was the last time he won 5-0?
Probably Hamilton.
When we were in the Championship.
And I think we were up. Was that no?
Was that the season?
Just after? Oh, no, I can't remember. I can't remember.
Anyway,
But
well, if that was the last time that we won 5-0 and it was against Hamilton.
let me know if I'm wrong at HSE Doc.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm still not 100% sold on him. I've not been 100% sold on him since his name was first mentioned. Just came across as a bit an average and appointment for the vision that Ron was painting on his chat with yourselves and all the other podcasts and stuff. So yeah, it was interesting when he was talking about the whole Streaky Lee thing. Like I mean, I'm all for the 13 game winning runs and stuff, because we've only got 11 other teams in our league. So if that includes beating Rangers and Celtic or drawing with them or whatever, quite happy to take that. But yeah, I think there's still that element, and I think obviously if you're playing like free flowing attacking football, you get found out fairly quick. And teams that are hard to break down, I mean, you saw St Mirren against Celtic last season a couple of times. I mean, St Mirren put out their youth team pretty much and like got that draw against Celtic. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. I think we're just going to need to give him time. I think that's what he needs, especially on the back of what happened with Maloney. So yeah, we'll just see what happens.
I've always said it, like say I've said it in the podcast before, I'd rather finish like 4th or 5th and play brilliant football, qualify for Europe and go up in a cup run, then finish 3rd and guarantee later stages in Europe and play boring football under like Sir Derek McInnes. I know that seems crazy, but sign me up for exciting football. That's what I go along to the games for. It's been tough to go along to the sort of like since COVID, since it's there was that initial excitement, and then under Ross and under Maloney, it's not been exciting football. So hearing some of the quotes there, you'll enjoy watching the team, and the football's nice to watch. It's easy on the eye. The team know their job. That really excites me. I can be sold on a sales pitch quite easily, but yeah, that really excites me. I know I'm not alone in feeling that way about the style of football. Do you think that some fans who are on the fence or are a bit unsure about Lee Johnson could be won over seeing some exciting football, which we've been missing at Easter Road?
I think some people will. Dave will. I mean, he goes on about it all the time, wanting the Mowbray football back. But yeah, I think the big thing as well, a lot of fans have been pushing for the younger players to come through, O'Connor, Laidlaw. There's a few of them now, and obviously we saw 4 of them finish the game on Sunday against St Johnstone.
Stephen Bradley been on loan at Dundalk as well.
Yeah, exactly, and having
one
a
that
good run.
impressed in the pre-season. I was disappointed to see go out.
Yeah.
I'd love to see Lee Johnson go, you know what, there's a young laddie I'll take a chance on. And an exciting, tricky winger.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see what players we've got at the end of the season, going into next season through pre-season. Getting him in now is a good time because obviously he's got the full transfer window. He needs to be backed. He had a lot of money when he was at Sunderland to spend. I don't think he'll get half as much here, but Gordon spending $9,000 a week on Muller, and we saw how that turned out. I mean, anything's possible, eh?
Yeah.
So I think it was good as well hearing that he never wanted Defoe back at Sunderland. I never even knew that Defoe went back to Sunderland.
He was there and then he retired before the end of the season.
Genuinely never even knew.
Yeah, strange one.
So I mean, obviously he knows what he wants. I think with you and Gav's chat there about the direction of his transfers and who was making them, I think it's quite a similar situation with us now. We don't know who's making the transfers. If
it is a committee, if it does involve Ian Gordon, who has no experience in football, let's no beat around the bush, he's never worked in football before Hibs, they can try and pay, he's not that involved, he's still involved, but like I say, I know there have been some pieces trying to play it down and stuff. I don't know how much I'd buy into that, but as long as it's a committee and the manager is heavily involved in that, the decision making, the identifying exactly what kind of players needed, and it is like the transfer committees do work. Seeing them work, like Liverpool, I'm sure is a transfer committee, and if you've got the right coach, like I was speaking to my brother about this because he sent me a screenshot of this potential Manchester United team for next season, and I was like, that looks good on paper, but it matters who the coach is, because no disrespect to him, but Jordan Henderson's not that great, and he's winning all this with Liverpool because he's got the best coach getting the best out of him. He's turned, Mo Salah to me was a very, very good player, and has went and worked on with the best coaching and the best in coaching teams, is now one of the best players in the world. If he'd went to Man United, for example, Mo Salah would not be one of the best players in the world. So, yes, I'm going on a long tangent here, but my point is, if you've got the right coaching team that can coach the players to play the best, then yeah, I think that can be more important sometimes than specifically what players you sign.
Yeah, 100%. I think obviously we're just going to need to see how it plays out. If this is the direction that Hibs have taken, then we've just got to get behind it. I think that there's a lot on social media today about people cancelling their season tickets and stuff. I mean, I says at the end of last week's pod that I've not renewed my ticket yet. It wasn't really based on what manager we brought in. It was just the disaster last season, and whether me paying £400 for a season ticket and going to half the games with work and all the rest of it, family life
gets in the way.
Yeah. I mean, you've got to be committed to the project and where your money's going, because obviously nobody makes every. Well, I say nobody makes every game. Things get in the way, like you said. Life gets in the way. And if I'm not turning up to a game, I want to know that my money's being spent well, and that's where the results. Gordon speaks highly about this vision that he's got, us getting European football every year, pushing Rangers and Celtic. If he thinks that Lee Johnson can push Rangers and Celtic, I'll be amazed.
I'm a bit more hesitant about that. I don't think he's the man to do that, but if we're going to be consistently challenging for third and fourth and playing exciting football while doing it, I think Lee Johnson's the man for that, and I'm excited by that. And like I say, if I'm paying this money to go along, I know everyone has personal takes. Some people just want to see Hibs win no matter what. I want to be entertained whilst I'm there, I really want the exciting football. I'm a lot closer now I'm a lot more excited about a season ticket now after listening to Gav from the Rock Report than I was at 2:00 this afternoon when I was organising the Zoom call. In terms of, like, say, so I mean, we were mentioning league positions and stuff. What would you determine as a successful first season? I mean, obviously Hearts are a bit of ahead of us. They finished third. They'll be looking to build on that. Aberdeen, under Goodwin, will be looking to rebuild. Dundee United finished fourth and I've got a good manager, although there's talk that there's team interested in his manager. What would be a successful first season for a Lee Johnson's Green and White Army?
We need to be pushing for the third spot, regardless of how well Hearts have done this season. There was a massive gap between third place and where we finished in 8th. Did we finish 8th or 7th? Did we manage 8th? So
Livingston got 7th.
Yeah. So based on that, we need to be pressing Hearts again this season. I want us to beat Hearts this coming season. We need to be third. When you see Motherwell and Dundee United, Ross County finishing in the top 6, and we're not there, that's a massive problem. And when they teams are pushing for European football and we're not even in contention, that's where the issues lie. We need to be performing well against Hearts. That's probably the biggest thing this season for me. That we need to close the gap and getting the results against Hearts, because we were ran over this season, completely ran over by a team that just got promoted. And loads of folk were saying on social media, and that even Hearts fans, the whole banner, this is our city this season. What a fucking season to pick at, because obviously it's just turned into an absolute mess. I don't think we beat Hearts this season. So yeah, I mean, it's that's where we need to get back to. There's got to be a few players going out, a few players, well, hopefully coming in, and I mean, obviously we need to keep Clark, keep players like that. I would keep Jasper, because I think with what Gav said about Johnson's style of play, I think that Jasper will fit in well with that. But we need to reshuffle the pack up front. keep Macy. I think that we just need a complete clear out. Johnson needs to identify what players are good enough for his style of play. We need to back him for that. And if we can turn around and say that we've backed the manager, and then he performs shite halfway through the season, I wouldn't be like disgruntled about getting rid of him, because we've done all we can to support him.
Not even officially be appointed. You've already got him out the door.
I've not got him out the door. I'm saying that he needs to.
We need to back him and make sure that if it feels it's on him and not on the
exactly 100%. It's got to work both ways. There was so many failings from Hibs and the sacking of Jack Ross, who just got us to the League Cup final. I mean, it's unfair to say that Maloney was the wrong person. I think it was the wrong time for Maloney to come into such a high-profile job, where at the time we were still pushing for top 3, top 4. He got that new manager bounce, and it worked for a couple of weeks, but then like one defeat and it all just went to shit.
It's so difficult to come in halfway through a season, though.
100%.
And I think that's one of the things that's got to be caveated with Lee Johnson's Sunderland spell. He came in and done January to November to January, I think it was, like over 13 months, and his job was to kind of get them promoted. Whereas that's kind of like Gav said, that's not really the kind of, like, yes, he probably could have done it. Like, say they were third, only 2 points off, but there was the odd blip and stuff, and they were just that determined to get promoted that they sacked him. And now they're obviously doing quite well under I think who we went before. What's his name? The bald guy, Scottish guy.
Alec
Neil. That's it. Yeah. But let's see. I think Maloney, coming in the January, being somewhat involved. I don't know how much in terms of the January transfer window. Obviously, a lot of talk about were his signings, blah blah blah. We've went over that. I think the fact that he's coming in the summer, he can get a pre-season, his pre-season, he can get started now. He can hopefully take a bit of he's probably already had a break, I guess, but like say, get started, get identifying what he needs, hopefully get backed, and yeah, I'm excited to see what a Lee Johnson Hibs looks like. I'm excited for that first pre-season game. I'm excited for that first game of the season once there's a few signings in the door, and I'm excited for the first game after the transfer window shuts. I think, like I say, I'm excited to see what this team looks like. Yeah, so I've said a lot, but I'm genuinely excited by this appointment, and I know I'm probably in the minority of that, but Lee Johnson's green in my army. Let's go.
Yep, Gav, you've won me over.
Really?
Just now. Just now.
You're excited in the short term, and then we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I think the decision's made. It's out of our hands now. We can't put any more pressure on the board and tell them that they've got to sack Lee Johnson before he starts and try and get in Thomas in, or I'm going to cancel my renewal of my season ticket that I've still not even made yet. So yeah, I mean, let's go. We'll see what happens.
I think he does have a tough job turning fans' opinions round. I think, like you said, winning derbies would definitely help, and I think, and they said about turning, Gav said about he turned Stadium of Light into a fortress. I think if he does that Easter Road, that's going to go a long way, because the home wins will get him a lot of plaudits. Hopefully some lessons learned. Like I say, hopefully has reflected on some mistakes made at Sunderland, and he's ready to go. I hope fans buy into this, and I hope he kind of does well. Obviously, of course we did. We want that. Means Hibs are doing well. But yeah, so like I say, let us know your thoughts on Lee Johnson as Hibs manager. There obviously we're expecting an announcement in the coming days. Well, there'll be more reaction to this next week. We'll kind of get more views on that. But yeah, I mean, just briefly, Stephen, we kind of held off on doing a podcast this week because we knew there was going to be more clarity on the manager situation later in the week. So rather than doing the podcast on Monday, we held off. The St Johnstone win. Am I being harsh if I say, yeah, it was a 4-0 win, but it was a St Johnstone B team and they weren't trying a leg because they were too busy worried about Friday? Is that harsh, or did Hibs do well?
Well, I mean, James Scott scored a hat-trick, so that says it all.
Are you trying to tell me you've not changed your opinion after one game and you don't want us to desperately go and spend money on James Scott?
No.
Okay.
Why would I change my opinion after a hat-trick against St Johnstone, who were already promoted, already safe? I think that, I mean, yeah, it was a good result. It was a good result for the last game of the season, being at home. it gave the fans that wee glimmer of hope that things will get a bit better. Not me, but
I don't think anybody expected any different, Stephen.
yeah. I mean, obviously I never went. I had work. Chose work over the football.
Right.
Chose to do
All about that overtime.
Chose to. It wasn't even for overtime. It was just for toil. Yeah. I think that it was more like a nice thing for people who went along with their kids. I don't even know what the attendance was. Probably about.
They announced it
70,000
as I think 14,000.
So-
And I know on the radio they laughed at that.
basically just included everybody who was a season ticket holder.
Yeah, I heard about Mikey Stewart and I can't remember who else it was, just laughing. And like they actually got a conversation. They must be able to calculate it because that's clearly including season ticket holders that haven't turned up. They must be able to actually figure out what the physical attendance is. I don't know why they don't just announce that. We've wondered about that in the past.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, I have to say, I think it was encouraging to see some good goals. Clark, couple of good crosses. Newell bursting forward, getting an assist with his right foot was really good to see. But I think the main takeaway, we obviously put some posts out about this on the social yesterday. Darren McGregor, captain in the side, probably his last game for Hibs. He's got a year left in his contract, but I think he kind of, the way he was speaking in after the game, very much saying about if he doesn't see his next year at Hibs is kind of what I took away from it. So he's either going to play someone else or he's going to retire. It's one of the two. He would like to stay at Hibs, involved in some sort of coaching capacity, but that's obviously dependent on the new manager and like the higher ups in terms of Ron Gordon and stuff. I hope they find some role that pleases Darren McGregor and will keep him at the club in some capacity. But I just like I say, great for him to have a clean sheet and a fitting send off at Easter Road in the sun.
I'd take Darren McGregor over Jamie McAllister as my fucking assistant manager anyway, like, honestly.
He's apparently, I was speaking to Gav after we stopped recording and he was saying about Jamie McAllister was apparently very highly thought of as a set piece coach. And they scored some really exciting set pieces, so that's something we can look forward to as well.
But you need a good player to score set pieces. Where have we got to get Joe Newell?
We've got Ewan Henderson to take the corners. Ewan Henderson and Jamie McAllister are going to become
Ewan
the
Henderson
best mates.
will be away down to Ross County or something next season.
This cold is really getting you down. It's making you worse than usual, Stephen.
I know, it's hard, but
Hay fever, sorry.
Hay fever, whatever.
But yeah, so sorry, back to the original point. Darren McGregor, great they got a great send off in the sun.
Yeah, I mean, obviously at the start of this season I was surprised to see him in and around the squad again. I thought that a couple of years ago would have been his last season, but he's stuck around and he comes in and he does a job. Like when Lewis Stevenson's getting your Player of the Year, obviously just on loyalty to the club, I think, more than anything. I think
that's harsh. I think Louis has been one of our best players this season.
Well, that says it all. Then,
it does say a lot, and the fact that Cadden got as well when he's been an attacking wing back in a back
been
five,
injured for like 3 months.
Has had injuries and got 3 assists from the season. Like I say, I know we've talked about this a lot. I think a lot of that is the movement of strikers or lack of movement from strikers in the box and reading the crosses, but partly, like I say, the fact that he one way or another has only had 3 assists and got Player of the Year kind of sums up our season. And Players Player of the Year, I think Louis deserved it. I think he's been great at times. I remember that cup game. I thought he was brilliant. But yeah, like I say, brilliancy does get a big send off. I think he's, no matter what he does next, he'll always be fondly remembered for his time at Hibs. And I think getting to captain the team, keeping a clean sheet, walking around with his kids, it does seem like a nice fitting send off. It would have been nice to finish with a Scottish Cup performance on Saturday, but I'll not be watching that with the teams involved.
do you think that we'll get like Daniel Mackay and that? Do you think he'd fit into the Lee Johnson?
That's
team?
maybe one of the ones, that one of these sort of youngsters that's kind of got a bit of promise on the fringes, sent out on loan. But I mean, was he involved much at Kilmarnock? But then
I don't know.
Then again, you've got a completely different style with Derek McInnes. So yeah, I think there's a lot of people that could Tate as well, who went out on loan. So there's probably some young players that are kind of looking at it going, right, I'm ready to impress the new boss.
Well, they've got a need to.
Yeah.
But I think you were right in what you were saying with Stephen Bradley, because I think he's one of the players that everybody's sort of been following at Dundalk, considering what he scored on his debut or something, scored 2 the week after. Yeah, I think it's just got to be an interesting season. Doidge out, O'Connor in. I think that's probably one of the things that we'll probably see, because I mean Doidge is obviously no Ballon Doidge now. Like I
don't know what's going on with him. It'd be nice to get some clarity. I hope he's all right.
Lucky,
it's just
lucky if he'll be playing for Newport County next season.
The crazy thing is, just before he got injured earlier in the season, he was set to be called up to the Wales squad, and he was on that trajectory. He was going back up. He was scoring goals for Hibs again. He's got injured. He's come back. He's got COVID apparently, bit of long COVID. Like, the guy's just like had the worst luck. I hope Dodge can turn it around and get back to that player that was seen that was getting called up to the Wales squad and deserved it. But yeah, so like I say, we'll have more reaction about from this in terms of Lee Johnson next week, once he's actually been appointed and from what he sort of said, and we'll also have a season review to come as well in the coming weeks. So yeah, but you got much plans for tonight, Stephen? Also, we're recording this Wednesday night. It is Europa League final day. Dave informed us that he finished work and was going straight home to watch it, so this is why we're recording a bit earlier.
Yeah,
it would have been nice to have Dave here for 5 years and
choosing a Rangers game which he thinks Rangers are going to win.
Strange laddie. I don't know. Let's go into footy.
Like, you've got a Canberra Rangers top in your wardrobe, and
I really don't. I don't know where this comes from.
and Dave obviously is like.
I liked Canberra as a player, and I didn't mind him going to Rangers. You've twisted that quite a bit.
But yeah, I'll be in my bed until I see Frankfurt have scored, and then I might watch a second half.
I said that. The guy speaking to the guy at work today, and I was like, if I see Frankfurt have scored, I might stick it on. Yeah. But yeah, it's yeah, like I say, it would have been nice to have Dave here. I'm going to guilt trip him because it was we're speaking about this a few days ago, so it must have been 5 years and 5 days or something, or maybe in a week, 5 days in a week. Yeah. Was it the 11th of May or the 13th of May 2017? We uploaded our season review, the episode 1 of Hibs Talk.
I mean, the fact is, life gets in the way, but Dave chose life over us tonight. he had the option. We offered to make the podcast during the Rangers game, so none of us needed to watch it, and he chose to go home and watch the Rangers game instead of sitting here with us.
Dirty blue nose. Anyway,
anything to get out of buying me an Empire biscuit.
That's what it was. His turn.
It was his turn. It's probably been his turn the last 5 turns, but he never turns up now, so yeah, here we are.
Yeah. Hopefully Dave will be back on soon. Hope we get his reaction to Lee Johnson in the coming weeks as well. But yes, like I say, it's been a crazy season. We will have a season review to kind of go into a bit more, but I think it's all about looking forward now. Hopefully I do believe the announcement is kind of I think it was Moira for the Scotsman said the announcement is expected tomorrow.
See if I wake up right and we've signed somebody different for Lee Johnson, I will be fucking raging. It's
the fact that Sky Sports have reported that it's expected in the next 40 hours, and the Scotsman have said it, and Daily Record and the guy from TalkSport. I'm like, surely this is like done. So this is why we went full in on it.
Think how much a mug fucking Gav Roker report feels. Oh, by the way, you just pulled me onto a podcast I've heard nothing about for 20 minutes to chat away about a manager. Is
famous, I'll have you know.
Yeah, about a manager that I've never, that I've got no interest in now. But yeah,
fair play to Gav. He agreed to that last week. I reached out to him last week, and thanks again for Gav's time. Like I say, let us know how you're now sort of feeling about Lee Johnson as Hibs manager now that we've kind of got into it. And like I say, now that we've heard from Gav. But like I say, we'll be back later on. Thanks again, Stephen.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. Cheers.